the United States have entered the chat. When it comes to what's happening in Burkina Faso and Ibrahim Traore, the American military has made a bold public statement. In this video, we're going to highlight what America doesn't want you to know about its connection to Burkina Faso and why it has started a campaign against Burkina Faso and Ibrahim Traore. Ibrahim Traore is the most popular leader in Africa, not in his country, in Africa. So far, he is taking actions to prove that he is a man of the people, and everybody supports this action.
Just get
One of the things
patient
he
and
did
listen to
was
the
he severed
video to
ties
the
with
end.
France. France is a former colonial power in Burkina Faso. France used to have first refusal on all raw materials coming out of Burkina Faso, and it used to get these resources for much cheaper than the price on the global market. This is why puppet leaders are so valuable to nations, because a country like France can enrich a leader on an individual level, but gain massively through the resource extraction that it does. And France made lots of fuss about this. They put pressure on other African nations to sanction and do all sorts of things to prize power away from Traore. But now America are the ones being vocal.
Africa is a mineral-rich, resource-rich continent. Is that correct?
Yes, Chairman.
Okay. Are there success stories for the citizens of African countries when these larger, more prosperous nations or companies from more prosperous areas come in and exploit these minerals?
This is such an insulting framing of the situation, as if they are not party to coming in and meddling in Africa, as if they haven't been doing that for years and years, as if the CIA didn't kill Patrice Lumumba, as if all the problems in Africa have nothing to do with any of the meddling that America has been doing on the continent for hundreds of years. Are you kidding me? Zero awareness, zero acknowledgement. It is so insulting, it's unbelievable.
What I'm asking is that does it ever redound to the benefit of the citizens there in Africa?
Chairman, there's very few cases. When the Chinese Communist Party is outed on them pulling out raw materials, not benefiting the populations of the host country, they've been trying to come up with ways how they can stay there and process only at the protests of the people of these African countries.
What protests is this guy talking about? Every new airport on the continent of Africa was made by the Chinese. The main road going through the Republic of Congo, I did a video on this a couple of weeks ago. It was made by the Chinese. It took them 10 years to build. They're building everything here in Africa. Bridges. I mean, you name it. The Chinese are here building stuff. And guess what the Chinese don't do? They don't bring their ideological beliefs to impose on the leaders of the countries that they're doing this stuff in. What roads has America built? What airports has America built? What infrastructure has America built?
Okay. So can you...
Look at this, the way he's leaning on the desk. Even this pisses me off.
Is there any exception? Can you point to any success story where the people of one...
What success stories has America done? Show us the list of success stories America's done.
Country or one or two countries have actually benefited substantially.
Not on China's behalf. Not on China's behalf.
China's the only country in Africa?
And do the countries that are receiving entreaties from the Belt and Road Initiative, are they more and more mindful of that now and therefore reluctant?
Yes, and that's where we need to be able to do information operations to illuminate some of the irregularities and some of the malign type activities of the Chinese.
Information operations. So you've got something called regime change operation. Now we're hearing something called information operation. What does that mean? That sounds a lot like propaganda to me, but who knows?
In the African countries.
Information and narratives are power then, aren't they?
Absolutely. And as I said a few minutes ago, and I always will tout this, that we own the facts. We own the facts. We know exactly what the Chinese Communist Party is doing, and to some degree what the Russian Federation is doing in their propaganda operations, but we don't own the narrative.
So when it's Russia and China, it's propaganda. But when it's US, it's facts. and its information operation.
How does our U.S. approach compare and contrast to the approach of Russia in Africa and also Communist China in Africa?
Oh, Chairman, we've always had the lead. So what you're seeing in those two competitors or challengers, they're following in our wake. They see what works as far as our influence and deepening partnerships through those soft powers, whether it be health diplomacy or whether it be in development type programs. So they're following in our wake, trying to replicate what we do best. And I think the African countries know this, and so this is where, as we start to look at going forward, as State Department starts to reset these programs, looking at what worked and what didn't work, and doubling down on what does work. I think we have enough capital built up in these countries for them to ensure their stabilization and also prosperity.
So listen to the contradiction. Whenever a country comes in and helps Africa, does it benefit the people? He asked that at the beginning. This Mr. Langley here said, very rarely, it never benefits the people. And he put all the emphasis on China, as if America has never come in and done anything. The results of what Africa is a result of America's meddling, just as much as any other country. So America bears that responsibility. But now they're saying America's been taking the lead, and Africa loves what America does. If that's the case, where are the results? Almost every single African country is clambering to make deals with Russia and China, joining the BRICS nations. Every African country is trying to do that. There's no scenario, as he rightly put, where the citizens of Africa are benefiting because America has done this or that. It's very, very minimal. And whenever you do find that, which, I'm willing to admit that it does exist in pockets here and there. It's like they give with one hand and take with another. And the other hand they're taking with is all the resources. While they're giving, medical supplies and aids for a few million or a few billion, they're taking hundreds of millions in return in resources. So I would rather we just benefit from the resources altogether. Keep your aid, benefit from the resources, and then we'll figure out our own aid from the profits we make on a fair global price. Better yet, can we refine the stuff on the continent and then sell it into the market at a higher rate, capturing more of the supply chain value?
I can imagine a situation, though, in which the ruling elite of a country is receiving gratuities on the side that in order to the benefit of the strongman leader, and not to the populace of the country. Does that sort of corruption and bribery go on with regard to the Belt and Road?
Absolutely, Chairman. I see this, and I don't mind calling them out, but Captain Tory and Burkina Faso, as they know that both, whether it's their gold reserves, that is all those proceeds are just in exchange to protect the junta regime.
So there we have it. He told on himself. I'm going to call him out. Ibrahim Traore taking gold reserves, giving it to the elites of the country so that he can remain in power. The elites of the country are those that have been benefiting from the French regime that he overthrew. First of all, let's just get that out of the way. And why is gold so fresh in his mind? Traore's government took control of gold mines previously operated by foreign companies like Endeavour Mining, British, and Lithium Mining Company, American, asserting state ownership over critical assets. This move directly challenges decades of foreign dominance in the sector. American companies there taking gold out, and when he cuts it off, all of a sudden, America are accusing him of giving that money to the elites. Okay, fine. I made a list of all of the things that Ibrahim Traore has done since he's taken power. He's increased the GDP, growing it from 18.8 billion to 22.1 billion through agricultural and mining reforms. He's increased the GDP of the country. Does that not help the people? Distributed 400 plus tractors and 710 motor pumps to improve seeds for farmers. Tomato production rose from 315,000 to 316,000 tons. Millet, rice, and output also increased. He built 2 tomato processing plants and a second cotton processing facility. He nationalized the gold sector, which we've talked about already. He constructed and upgraded the roads, and he built Mogadishu's airport to 1 million in passenger capacity. He built a hydroelectric dam
for energy and agriculture use. He expanded and modernized the universities, built 18 new schools with water, sanitation, and science labs, trained 162 teachers and school directors, focusing on girls' education, upgraded water, sanitation, and infrastructure with major funding. That's where the money's going, ladies and gentlemen. It's not going into the pockets of the rich elite. It's going into tangible things that has increased the GDP in 2 years. So it is absolutely disingenuous for America to call out Ibrahim Traore on this point, particularly when there is a straight line direct correlation between when he closed gold mines and the military leader here talking about the nationalization of gold in the country. How dare you? And the thing he mentioned earlier was an information operation. Well, what have we seen this week? I've seen a lot of posts this week about children suffering as a result of Ibrahim Traore's regime. What's happening now is that there have been terrorist attacks and assassination attempts on Ibrahim Traore. And there is all sorts of speculation that this is done by foreign interests, meaning they fund these groups. When you see higher activity from a terrorist organization like Boko Haram, people like that, the jihadists that are in the area causing all this trouble, when you see the higher activity, it goes hand in hand with an influx of weapons, with an influx of money in order for them to be in a position to actually go and cause chaos. We've already cited evidence on this channel about how there was a financial link between USAID and Boko Haram. This is partially acknowledged by the United States themselves. They work on social media and messaging, calling it a information regime, putting out content that promotes the idea that this guy is so bad, that people are dying, that people are suffering. That also has the effect of trying to educate those back on ground in the United States, so that if anything was to happen to Ibrahim Traore, there would be no negative public outcry, because he's already painted as a bad guy. And then we have the potential funding of the very groups that cause the suffering that they're highlighting in the media. And if you think this is too far-fetched, check this out.
Everyone can look this up if you're listening right now. In 2021, the U.S. Special Forces Perspective, under Mark Milley, our chairman of the Joint Chiefs, put out an entire instruction manual for how the U.S. military can work with the State Department and our intelligence services to organize a rent-a-riot, to destabilize a country in order to bring them to the negotiating table. They gave an example of a hypothetical West African country where a member of U.S. Special Forces is on a separate mission, driving down a highway, and notices a billboard for Chinese infrastructure investment into a new port in this Western African country. The unit takes note of this billboard on a highway in Western Africa with Chinese symbols on it. They do their own investigation and figure out that this is part of a real estate development project from Chinese investors, that as part of that development project will have the construction of a Chinese naval port in this West African country, where in theory China would then be able to project naval influence in the Atlantic Ocean. What the Special Forces Guide calls for is coordination with the State Department, coordination with our intelligence services, coordination with our psychological operations unit to take all of our assets in that West African region. And in that case, what they did is they planned to work with the unions. What they did is they embarked in a social media influence campaign. Well, actually, there was one thing that happened first, is they first then went, in this hypothetical, the State Department sent a delegation to persuade the West African country to forbid the development license to the Chinese developer. And the head of that West African government said no. Because something was happening in the hypothetical in the next 30 days, there was a time sensitivity to generate an instability event to stop this using time-sensitive emergency. And so the way they generated that was they worked with their union contacts in the region and the media contacts in the region and created this whole social media campaign to inflame the sentiments of the West African labor union workforce who were working for Chinese companies at the time. Because in this hypothetical, the Chinese mining firms and Chinese industry, was employing a lot of these Africans. And it was to destabilize the country, to bring the mines, to bring the factories, to bring all of the Chinese production in the region to a halt, and to put all these Africans out of jobs, and to bring the African government effectively to a standstill. At the same time, in their own Special Forces manual, it called for support from U.S. aid to provide these same striking miners alternative jobs, so that while they were striking from the Chinese labor companies, they were still getting paid by U.S. taxpayers. So they were financially bribed, effectively, to boycott Chinese industry and to devastate their own country's government, create this crisis, and then use the State Department delegation to go back to the negotiating table with the West African government, and promised to end the destabilization if the development was halted. And in that hypothetical, the West African government then rejects the license for the real estate development of China, and that is declared as an unalloyed success by the U.S. Special Forces and their partner network in the State Department and Intelligence. And this is the way of our diplomacy in 2021. And this is all publicly available if you look at the Special Forces prospectus. And when this goes live, I'll post this on my X account at Mike Ben Cyber, so that you can don't take my word for it.
So what we have here is a public record of how America actually functions. And at this point, I think the evidence is absolutely damning. This is why Africa is turning its back on America and moving to China and moving in with Russia. America's no longer got control of the mines in Burkina Faso. So now they're making a stink and they've started this nonsense. Africa's got a long way to go for it to reach the potential that I know it can get to. But don't be under any illusions that a country like America is not there meddling, playing, figuring out how it can manipulate the continent for its own benefit.